This is a very special opportunity for Morgan State University as the largest, of course, HBCU in the state of Maryland, one of the largest in the nation, and also a leader in the space of STEM. We are number one in the state of Maryland and number one in the United States in producing black electrical engineers, number one in civil, number one in industrial. We also, in terms of producing blacks in science, and I see several of our faculty here from all of those areas. We are in the top 6 institutions in the country in producing that talent. And so to have this convening here today, especially after we assembled at the White House a couple of months ago, is an honor for Morgan State University. And we all know that there are some very ambitious goals associated with this alliance. And it is very important for everyone to be committed to those goals because there needs to be complete buy-in across a number of sectors if indeed we're going to transform this field the way it needs to be transformed in order for, thank you. So, but that level of commitment across all sectors will be critical if, for example, we are talking about scalability in the production of more women and more blacks and Latinx and people of color in these fields. Otherwise, we are not going to be able to advance very, very far. And so that really means that we need to make sure we have the buy-in of the entire STEM community. We need to make sure that what we are about is reflecting the great diversity of our nation. We need to identify whatever the structural barriers are to cultivating the talent that we need to cultivate. And so our goal here today is to begin the process to co-construct, if you will, a national strategy for STEM equity and excellence. And today, we will focus on the role of higher education. And eventually, in later gatherings, the focus would be on the role of other sectors. We are very, very happy to have with us all of the leaders that are here, our Lieutenant Governor Miller, that you'll hear from shortly. And so I just simply want to say that we are at a critical juncture in the movement for STEM equity and excellence. And the STEM Opportunity Alliance, in my view, is the absolute right initiative to drive real change and to drive lasting and sustainable change. I was invited to that White House gathering, and it was one of the few, if not only, gathering of the STEM professionals across this nation where I was a part of and left so energized by that because you had all of the right people in the room, the level of commitment was real, and I think all of us just simply left saying, how do we commit ourselves to ensuring that we bring about the transformation that we all desire? And so that's why I decided when the opportunity presented itself to me to become a member of the Advisory Council because I saw an opportunity for action. I saw an opportunity for scalability. I saw a level of seriousness across the leadership in this space that I had not seen in that kind of collective way, who knows, perhaps ever. And so with that in mind, I'm honored to say a few words about the next person that I want to bring forward. It is, of course, Dr. Shirley Malcolm, who I think is everybody's boss. she certainly is my quote-unquote boss in the most admirable way. Dr. Malcolm has been a member of our Board of Regents here at Morgan for almost 25 years. More than 25 years. I was trying to be kind. And she chairs the Finance and Facilities Committee of the board. Now, she could easily chair Academic and Student Affairs, but she chairs finance and facilities, and she brings to that a perspective in terms of investments in facilities to ensure that we are investing in the right thing, we are putting in place the right types of laboratories in order to really drive this kind of change. And ladies and gentlemen, she keeps us honest. And so please join me in welcoming Dr. Shirley Malcolm.
Thank you very much. I am very pleased to be here and to be here wearing two hats because I am the bridge between this institution and this initiative. And I am very honored to play that role. As President Wilson indicated, yes, I have been here on the Board of Regents since July, I checked with Ms. Grogan, since July 1st, 1997. And during that time, I have been able to see incredible growth. I was talking with Jan Morrison, who is here from Tides, and she used to live down the street. And she kind of took a driving tour and just could not believe the difference between the Morgan the board that I joined in 1997 and the campus and today's campus. And I think that it demonstrates something that is really important and profound. I have had to be appointed and reappointed by Democratic and Republican governors. And I have had to work with people from both sides of the aisle. And it says something that, in fact, this is not a partisan issue. Being able to elevate our STEM workforce, being able to invest in an institution that can deliver what we need for the future in terms of creating the future is not a partisan issue. It's something that we can all embrace and that we can all agree on. I indicated that, 25 years, almost 26 years is a long time, and I have seen a lot of growth. But I also chaired the search committee that brought President Wilson here. And he has carried us on a merry ride because all of a sudden, everything has accelerated. And Dr. Mary Schmidt Campbell gave a presentation where I was yesterday at CMU. And she said something that I just want to mention. She talked about a quote from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, "The fierce urgency of now." And I think that that's where we are, not only with regard to this institution, but also with regard to this initiative, the fierce urgency of now. Why we must move, why this cannot wait, why tomorrow is today, and why we have to keep this going forward. So I am pleased to be able to be on the ground here, as it were, with Morgan, to try to stand up the infrastructure that we would need to be able to contribute to this alliance and this initiative. At the same time, and I'm able to work with Dr. Travis York as the co-leader for the STEM Opportunity Alliance and with my boss, Sudip Parikh, because without those kinds of supports, you cannot move this. And so this co-creation process is really important. And as I said, it means a lot to both my hats, and that we would start here. And so I deeply appreciate the opportunity to address you and to have all of you here in my home space. Home territory, right? Okay, all right. And I would now like to hand off to my boss, Dr. Sudip Parikh. And I must tell you, if you want to talk about feeling supported in terms of the leadership for all of this, you could not find a better person who would step into this role. He comes with a wide-ranging background. I think that he talks about the fact he worked at the nexus of policy and business and a lot of other spaces that are important in this kind of cross-sector initiative that we have undertaken. So, my unindicted co-conspirator, Sudha Parikh.
All right, thank you for that. And don't let anybody fool you. Shirley's my boss too. Job titles don't mean much. Senior advisor, no, he's my boss. Look, I have the privilege of leading the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And we have a 175-year history. Not all of it's good. A lot of it is complex. But what I will tell you is in the last 40 years, which is while Shirley has been a part of the AAAS, that history is actually incredibly positive. And what it gives me is hope. It gives me hope for the scientific enterprise. If an organization like the AAAS that was founded before the Civil War can go from being an organization that had a founding group that was all men, it was all white men, all men actually very progressive for their time, but to go from that through the evolutions and the revolutions that are required to get to a board leadership that is majority women, that reflects this country, in very meaningful ways, and that has a CEO named Sudha Parikh, which I'm sure the founder never thought of. That gives me hope. It gives me hope because we're in a place where, talking about that fierce urgency of now, we have an opportunity that's born of tragedy. It is born of tragedy, and we have to face that. But that opportunity can be captured. That momentum can be captured. That momentum can be institutionalized in an organization like the STEM Opportunity Alliance. And that's what we're trying to do here, is if there's energy, don't let it fade away, because it inevitably does. You have to put it into something and capture it and turn it into a mechanism for progress. And that's what the STEM Opportunity Alliance is. Because what we're envisioning here is that someday, and I don't think it's too far away, let's say it's a few decades away, children are going to be born that are reflective of every part of this country. The Mississippi Delta, the Central Valley of California, Cambridge, Massachusetts, every part of this country. And they are all going to feel the same belonging in the scientific enterprise as everyone else. And what they're going to be able to do is say, I want to go to a Morgan State, or I want to go to an MIT, and I want to become an engineer. I want to help build the next century of this country. And they're going to feel it. And they're going to remember in their history books that there was a Dr. Shirley Malcolm and a Dr. Wilson, but they're going to think of it as history because their belonging is sacrosanct. They never question it. And that's where we're going to get to be, because then we can graduate the 1 million engineers that we're going to need to fill our factories, to build our economy, and to ensure that the progress of the future continues. So that's the vision. That is not a hope. That is not a hope. Because hope is when you don't have a plan. We got a plan. That plan is this construction, this co-construction. And so I want to thank Morgan State and Dr. Wilson for being the first host for one of these co-creation workshops, because we're going to do this across the country. Because when you start building that plan, then what it is this is, a friend of ours calls it cathedral building. All right, we're building a cathedral here. So we're putting together the bricks, the foundation, that we're going to get to that. We're going to get to this point of that vision where that child's going to be born. But it requires the plan from today, and this group is the first part of that co-creation. So I want to thank you for that. So thank you for being here. And now I'm going to turn it over to our next speaker, Sam Gill. Where is Sam? Oh, there he is. So I'm going to just introduce him for a second here. Sam called me when I was on vacation at Rehoboth, and about 2 years ago, and he said, I've got this idea. You know, I've just come into my position as the president of the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation. I'm brand new here, and I've got this vision that's gigantic. I have a vision of pulling the White House and pulling academia and pulling business together into a movement. And I think I know how to do it. And of course I said, really? Because we've been trying this for a long time. And he said, I think we can do it. And his force of will His force of will made that White House event happen, in addition to the blood, sweat, and tears of Dr. Travis York and his team, made that happen. And so when you have a vision like that and you put it into the world and you see it manifest into a room like this, that's something special. So that's Sam Gill. So let me turn it over to him.
Thank you very much, Sudip. That was a very generous introduction. And thank you very much, President Wilson, Dr. Malcolm, Morgan State for hosting us and for being the first to step forward in this process. Of course, thank you to the Lieutenant Governor for being here, which I think underscores the critical civic importance of this. Big visions require big resources. So I just want to take a moment to talk about what this collective vision is going to require, particularly as it begins to expand through the work that's being inaugurated here and that will be carried on. That's me. I work for the Doris Duke Foundation. Oh no, it's not me. That's Sudip. That's Sudip. We're both of our parents are from India, so it could be me. But there was a picture of me somewhere. I work for the Doris Duke Foundation, and we are a really eclectic endowment that invests in a range of causes. But the reason that we're here today is because of a program in medical research led by Cindy Escobar Alvarez, who's with us today. And that program focuses on career support for physician scientists. And so, I think a natural question, of course, is, why were we the ones to come to AAAS and say, we really ought to do something that includes everybody? Why are we here today in a conversation that's mostly focused on STEM excellence and equity in post-secondary environments? And I think that question, which is a logical question, obscures what I think really discloses an accurate observation that obscures a profound truth. I think the accurate observation is that this is a problem that adheres in every single part of the science enterprise. It's a problem in households. It's a problem in K through 12 environments. It's a problem in undergraduate environments. It's a problem in graduate environments. It's a problem anywhere that a scientist is employed. It's a problem anywhere anyone is benefiting from the applications of science, whether that's at a health clinic or somewhere else. And the result of that accurate observation is that too often, at best, people in different pieces of that puzzle say, well, we're working on our part. We've done so much in our part. And at worst, people say, well, no, we can't succeed as a result of this. It's just too much. But the profound truth is that the obligation of justice, I think, is that we all have to shoulder a little bit of the whole. And so at Doris Duke, we've been working for a decade under Cindy's leadership to really try to change who gets to be a physician scientist, and therefore what medical science and biomedical research looks like. But that's not enough. And so our investment in this is our trying to shoulder a little bit of the whole. And so through this process, I hope not only do we build a strategy that is compelling, that's a compelling beacon, analytically, morally, to the whole of our enterprise, to the whole of our country, I also hope we build on our now over 90 organization, billion-dollar coalition to amass the resources that it's going to take to get this done. Because $1 billion is a lot, but it's not close to enough, not by a long shot. So this really needs to be the beginning of an intellectual movement. It needs to be the beginning of a political movement. It needs to be the beginning of a moral movement. And I just couldn't thank you all enough for being here to start. So Sudip, back to you to keep us going through the program. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sam. All right, so now it is my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker. So we are fortunate to have Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller here with us this afternoon. That is a privilege. Thank you for being here. Lieutenant Governor is, doesn't say what numbers Lieutenant Governor, the 10th Lieutenant Governor of Maryland. Thank you. So on January 18th, 2023, she was sworn into office as Lieutenant Governor, the second woman to serve in that role, and the first woman of color, and the first woman of immigrant background elected to statewide office in Maryland. And I think that's extraordinary. It tells you where we are as a state and where we are as a nation. Born in India, Lieutenant Governor Miller and her family immigrated to the U.S. when she was 7 years old. She earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering from the Missouri University of Science and Technology. Lieutenant Governor Miller has devoted her life to public service and removing systemic barriers to opportunity. You see why we wanted her here. For 25 years, she worked as a transportation engineer for Montgomery County's Department of Transportation to improve safety and provide equitable access. And from 2010 to 2018, she served the people of Montgomery County, District 15, in the Maryland House of Delegates. And for over 30 years, Lieutenant Governor Miller has lived in Montgomery County with her husband David, where they've raised 3 daughters. And as a father of 2 daughters, I have tremendous respect that you've actually have actually gotten as far as you have. I haven't quite gotten there yet. So, Lieutenant Governor.